Please listen carefully.
Damn it, you people don't pay me enough. What, a minute to show? Alright, what is our keyframe interval at? Ready places. Harv and Pawn is live. 5, 4, 3, 2. No, that's a copyright strike. Just waiting to happen. What if we just used last season's intro?
It seems a little lazy, don't you think?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Hello, I am the Ronin Pawn.
And I am Harvey, and welcome back to Harv and Pawn, and Harv and Pawn, and so forth.
Harvey, you know those movies where they've got like the hackers, you know, the old school movies where they represent hacking and it's just like there's a bunch of connections going all over the place and just things streaming and people are slamming code in. I was just thinking, I want you to imagine our show as represented by like a 90s hacking movie, because what I've just put together is that we are streaming to 4 different channels: your channel, my channel, Twitch, the Harv and Pawn like YouTube channel. You are sending your fucking webcam and voice signal to me from another continent. We're connected to, you know, we got the chat coming in over here, we got the overlay from Streamlabs. Just imagine like all of the little tendrils shooting across the internet. Some dude just sitting in the background, slamming on the keys. That's probably Houston, I would suppose, actually. Like, Houston, are you the one doing that? I'm not. He's quiet today. He's got a cold.
You know, did you see the Terry Pratchett's Going Postal live action? Not a remake, because it was never originally made into a film, but have you seen Terry Pratchett's Going Postal? Okay, cool. So, have you read the book?
Yeah, because I read.
I'd take that as a sarcastic no.
No, I have
It's hard to
not
tell
read
with that. All right. Well, anyway, so it's kind of the postal service but insane as everything in the Terry Pratchett universe is. And they do a great job of really giving this awesome vision of the telegram networks, with telegrams being sent back and forth. They have like these towers with lights in them, and they open and close the shutters to create different codes of lights that get sent across. And just that, imagine trying to do this show but via telegram, but everything is each like pixel is sent by a different tower to a different place, and
Just
everything's
a whole bunch of
recreated.
pneumatic tubes.
Yeah,
Somebody taking them
yeah.
out and going, this has got to get to Harv and Paul on YouTube. This one's got to go to Twitch. Fuck.
I'm trying to
I did
search.
want to ask, because I think somebody's hacking. Someone's got to be hacking us, because we do our weekly poll that's supposed to just go out to the subscribers and the Patreon stuff, and you get to decide what we're going to talk about this week. And we have 104 votes across this latest straw poll. We don't have 104 patrons and subscribers presently, so which one of you has a botnet is what Harv and I have
Yeah.
decided. It's weird,
And,
too, because it's not just that we have like 104. You would think we'd have 104 votes. It would be like, we'd have like 6 votes across all the options, and then there'd be 100, there'd be 98 votes for one that somebody said, I'm going to have my... But we've got votes for it. We got 17 votes for this, 14 for that, and 13 for the other. How did this... There's a leak. We got a leak in the office. God damn it, Houston. Still got that cold, huh? All right.
And I think straw poll has got IP duplication checking on by default. So yeah, it would have to be a botnet, and you'd have to go in and manually kind of be like, okay, this many bots is going to vote for this one, and this many bots for this one, and like, I mean, botnet is an overused kind of term that I'm not sure I really understand what it's supposed to be, but essentially, why? So,
Well, it's like it's
someone
all the
clearly
computers
has,
I've hacked, and I've got software running. I mean,
of course.
I don't know. I don't know. Never heard about. I don't know how you do that.
What are these bot nets that we like phishing net? Yeah, no, but who did it and why? Because I mean, hologram says shit. I've been busted, but I think you said that a little bit too soon. Unless, well, I don't know. Was it you, hologram? Like, really, it probably is someone who's watching the stream right now, right? It's not going to be some random viewer because it's such a weird, specific thing to have bothered to do with your time.
Yeah,
It's got to be like one of the core audience.
and to like distribute them too, because you just imagine somebody who's like, okay, it's gotta be like, it's gotta look realistic. It doesn't. Clearly, it doesn't look realistic. Like, how did we end up with 104 votes on this thing? But you'd have
Hologram
to like
says,
spam votes in all these different categories to try and like spread it out.
she says she thinks she knows what's happened. So go on then,
Yeah.
enlighten us. Because
Well,
honestly, I've
listen,
got no clue. Like
does
my
the
my original thought was, oh, it's been leaked. The link has been leaked publicly on my YouTube channel, and I posted that trailer, and people went from the trailer to it somehow. But who's kidding? Like, who am I kidding? People don't watch my videos that much anymore, and of the people who do watch it, I don't get that much engagement. 100 votes? I can't get 100 people to leave the YouTube page for anything nowadays. So,
Hey, welcome, Dramatian. Ah,
oh,
so
while you were gone, Born Jamasian resubscribed for a 5th month, I believe. I
oh,
heard the sound come through the Discord call.
well, thank you very much. Eckelgumuk. ECLGMG. Do you mind me just saying Dramatian? You've been around for so long, and then the name changed, and I feel like... Anyway, Harv, what have you been up to with the things, What's just the interesting bits?
Just the interesting bits.
There you go.
What have you been up to? No, I've had a fairly decent week for the past week. I mean, so we didn't do the most interesting thing, I suppose, that's relevant is that we didn't do a show last week. We instead recorded a podcast episode. So that's why we're here 2 weeks later or 1 week later
is
than we
that
would
why
normally be.
you weren't here for that show?
Yeah, you just kind of did it yourself, I guess.
Okay.
And then we recorded the podcast, and that's gonna go up somewhere at some time. I haven't decided yet. Life is too busy. to be spent worrying on such small administration tasks. It'll eventually get up there
Yeah, we'll catch up
onto
to
the
it.
internet.
The season
Yeah.
2 thing we've been rolling into, we actually came up with a way to produce our segments in a more, efficient manner that doesn't burn me out in particular. And so far we've done exactly the same thing as we've always done, which is last fucking minute. I got it done today. Here. Oh shit, download it. I didn't send Harv my part until yesterday, and then I'll edit it. Again,
It was
great
really
for our
good.
hacker overlay when we do it. You're just sitting there, I'll edit it, and then you're just slamming on the keyboard, not even looking at the screen.
It was really good that today was my birthday because it meant that I had booked it off of work, and it was really good that I'm a loner who has no friends in the city because I didn't have anything planned for the entire day. So I spent the entire day editing this video.
Oh, shit.
It's your birthday.
It's your birthday?
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Aww.
Come on, everybody.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday. It's a great day.
Gotta sing a little bit ahead of it.
That's what we say. Happy birthday
to you. Woo!
Thank you very much. Did you cue that up, or did you just happen to have that around on your soundboard?
I did it just for you.
Ah, thank you, Pawn. That's so nice.
I forgot. You said like 2 weeks ago was the birthday. You were hinting, and I didn't. What did I got you bog roll. Bog roll.
Did you get me? You didn't get me another
Two-ply.
BJ. You
Yeah,
didn't get me another BJ. God damn it, Pawn.
BJ's was closed all week and the week before.
That was what I wanted. The only thing I wanted.
Oh,
I like
so
your
did
new
you
microphone setup,
legitimately-
Pawn.
Oh.
You've got a chin mic and a forehead mic, and an empty stand.
Holy crap, Bavilia donated $10.
Ooh.
Happy birthday, Harv. Just came in.
Thank you very much, Pavilia. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so
I had a nice
much.
day today. So I did all that video editing stuff, which was just editing, like the literal hacker stuff. Yeah. And then I had some call with some family. I just spoke to them on the phone for a bit. And then I went into work. At like 4:45, I went into work and just kind of sat down at my desk and kind of managed to sneak in without anybody really clocking that I'd entered. And then spoke to just the people who were there and persuaded a couple of co-workers to go out for dinner. I mean, I say persuaded. Most people had already agreed the evening before to come out for dinner. But I think a couple more were informed and so came along as well. So we
I like
went
the
out to a nice
idea of you
Italian
just sort
place
of
and had pizza. It was
sneaking into work
sweet
at the
time.
end of the day and then just like coming in and like, oh God, long day, huh? Well, I gotta get out of here. I'll see you later.
One
So
of
it's
the owners of the company, I think, didn't clock at all that I hadn't been there the entire day. Or at least if he did, he didn't like think anything of it or already knew why I was there. You know, why I'd come in on when I'd clearly booked it off. But yeah. It was good times.
So Italian. What would you order?
I had a chicken pesto pizza, which was extremely nice,
Oh,
and a glass of wine, and it was supposed to be an Irish coffee ice cream. Is it called Irish coffee or
okay,
Irish cream?
okay, yeah. So a little bit. There's
Irish
supposed to be some
cream,
liquor in
yeah,
there. A little bit
exactly.
of
But I don't think it was. I think it was just coffee ice cream.
something.
Oh, Mosaic Task Force gifted
Just
me a sub.
yep.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm getting a birthday presents from everybody.
You know, we absolutely appreciate that. I gotta say though, before these live streams, I go through and I copy and paste like all the just manually. I copy paste like our subscribers to like the end card, and it makes it look like we have less subscribers than we do, or less subscriptions than we do, because I don't feel comfortable putting in that Harv and Pawn is subscribed to Harv and Pawn, that HOC Gaming is subscribed to Harv and Pawn. Oh, good. Now there's one for me, too. All right.
Hey,
Fuck it,
now
I'm
we're
putting
in
it on the
Porn
next
is subscribed to
outcard.
Harv and Porn. Yeah. Why not? I mean, who's going to look at it and go, oh, they put their own names on there? We're just giving ourselves money in some way. Well, I mean, Mosaic is essentially giving us money, and then we're giving it to ourselves without having a say in the matter in a way.
It's good. Now you can have your side of your subscription. I'll take my side of my subscription, because we got to split it down the middle. So,
Exactly. Yeah, it's good that you gave us both one. Otherwise, we'd have to split it. And sharing is terrible. I hate it. I got a present from my
leave. Have my own
I
show
got a-
called Harv and Pawn.
called Porn and Porn, and I would go off and make Harv and Harv.
Did you get anything for your birthday? Did anybody give you gifts?
Yeah, although actually, before I say that, I want to in this pizzeria place. This is the best Italian restaurants in all of Chester, which probably doesn't mean too much. But
Yeah, they're
one of
serving
my
pesto pizza. They can't be that. No, I'm kidding.
one of my friends at work informed them that it was my birthday without kind of saying anything. Although he'd already prepped me beforehand what was going to happen. They obviously put a happy birthday song on the speakers, and kind of my Irish cream ice cream had a candle stuck in it that was that was lit when it came to me. And then they brought out massive pan lids, and one of the staff held the pan lid next to my ear and beat the other side of it for a while. It's like, ow, ow, ow. Like, not literally held against physically, but held next to it, and the sound was loud in one of my ears.
Happy birthday! Here's some tinnitus or tinnitus if you're from where.
Is it tinnitus anywhere?
I don't know.
Tinnitus
That's just how I've always Midwest America. I think we say tinnitus.
Oh boy.
And also,
But
we
yeah,
park
so
our
that
car in
was-
Harvard Yard.
That was an interesting birthday celebration kind of tradition that they have there. Luckily, I don't have tinnitus, otherwise that would have been absolutely awful, and I don't seem to have gained it. So, anyways, what I did get, they gave me. Dun, 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 dun.
Harvey, where did he go?
Letterboard, which they told me that they wanted me to have this so that I could put it in the background of my YouTube videos or the background of this stream.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I know it's backwards, but and so they said you could put the topic on this thing, and I said, I really hate to break this to you, but I'm gonna struggle to hang this on the back wall because it's a green screen. I can't. I might be able
beautiful,
to
beautiful. Okay,
It actually looks
eye
pretty
hooks
good.
from the ceiling on fishing line.
Yeah, exactly.
You can just float in space.
So, yes, if you're watching right now, Amna and everyone else, thank you for this. I'll try and figure out a way to suspend it in the background. Otherwise, I'll show it off in a different video. But
it's weird how often manufacturers end up accidentally printing the text on their boxes backwards. You see it on videos all the time.
Yeah, really strange, eh? Yeah. Anyway, that's enough about me. How was your past week / 2 weeks been?
Good. Pretty good. Like the coolest thing, the most interesting thing, I think. It's not most interesting, but the coolest thing made me feel good. Recent live stream, I bust open Split RP, which was the auto splitter that I was writing for Cluster Truck. Harv, have I ever told you I'm a speedrunner?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, Paul. Whoa, are you any good?
I'm God level, God tier.
Very impressive.
But yeah, so for Cluster Truck, I long ago, by which I mean 6 months ago, a year, I don't know time. But I started writing in Python the code for I was hacking it, code for an auto splitter so that when we run the game, it just automatically does the splits for us, which we've already got one, but it's not. I wanted to add a feature. I wanted to add a certain feature. So I busted it open this week, Harv, and as of today, the thing, like, I rewrote it from scratch. It's less than 300 lines of code, and it works as good as the one that took me, months to build. It's thousands of lines of code and all that kind of stuff. At least the engine is working really well. So that was really happy yesterday when I got it all working. I'm like, oh my god, it's working and it's doing the splits right. And I mean, perfect frame accuracy. And then I was, testing it. So I was playing Cluster Truck, and I found a new strat, a new route, a new method for Cluster Truck's 310, and that made me happy too. I went right past the fellow who's dominating our leaderboards, Wolfie, aka Weeaboo, on the little per level rank. He had like a 12.6 second time. I managed to put in an 11.9 second time, and this method that I came up with is it's 60% viable. So you die. I literally did 30 runs, 18 of them, I counted them, 18 of my 30 runs came in using this method, and they averaged 12.4 seconds on a level that usually averages 13.5. So I've taken off more than a second if I want to risk 40% chance of death on a level that is already very likely for death. But it made me very happy.
How many techniques do you have kind of in the pocket ready to be used, but their viability is so slim that you just end up never using them in your full runs?
As time goes on, there's definitely, I would have no idea how many we've got, because there's 90 levels of the game, and when you go for IL time, when you're just trying to do the individual level, the fastest you've ever done it, there's stuff that you do that's way riskier, because you're just going to loop it on, over and over again. So, but what I was going to say is that the number of those that we have that don't get used because you're probably going to die in the Cluster Truck run keeps going down and down. Like, we just keep getting, better at it and better at it. And as time goes on, the IL strats are becoming the run viable strats as well. More and more. And with Wolfie out there, Weeaboo, just friggin' dominating the leaderboards, it's almost like you have to be running the friggin' IL strats just to be able to compete on a lot of those.
I've been replaying The Witcher 3 from the start purely because I watched the Netflix series, and by the end of that, I was like, I want to be back in the Witcher world. So I just started again. And it's been a sufficiently long enough time that I don't remember everything perfectly, so it's enough that it doesn't feel boring to replay.
How's the Netflix show? Because I don't have Netflix anymore.
It's actually pretty good. I think it's one of those where some people will say it's terrible because they think it's cool to hate on it. But no, Henry Cavill does a good job as Geralt. All the other acting is, for the majority, it's all solid acting. It's a little bit. I would say that nostalgia is doing an amount of legwork for me because I've played 2 of the 3 games, and so there are bits and bobs in there that I'm like, from the game, yeah. And so someone who hasn't actually ever encountered it before might not kind of find as much enjoyment there. But no, overall, it's pretty damn solid. I'd recommend it. Give it a watch.
How many sex scenes? Because I know that's a big feature of the video
Of the games,
game.
Yeah. Definitely a few. There's at least 2 or 3, I'd guess. But they don't really show you any full-on stuff.
Yeah, I was going to
there's
ask
a lot
how
of
much they're
boobies.
getting away with on Netflix, because
Well, they're definitely getting away with boobs. You get to see a nice few boobs.
Well, all right.
And,
I think we're actually in a cultural backlash moment. I feel I feel that we've gone through sort of a censoring kind of phase, like a self-censorship phase. I mean, socially things tend to go in that cycle of you'll get more and more wild and crazy, stuff that's way out there, and there's a whole bunch of cursing and a whole bunch of nudity and things like that, and then eventually there'll be a pullback. I feel like we've gone through a pullback phase culturally in our media, sort of self-imposed for once, just because of internet, YouTube, commercial viability, things like that. The media that I see out there, and especially in the comedy world and things like that, it's not, you don't see Andrew Dice Clay, Dennis Leary, Bill Hicks style stuff as much. There's certain things that get talked about, but it's not like blue humor, George Carlin kind of humor, dick and fart, the good old dick and fart joke. I feel like we've pulled back from that, and I think we're just about ready to burst out again. I think people are just fucking sick of it, sick of the commercial viability, and everything has to be, happy, shiny, and clean, and especially the way that YouTube keeps making its decisions about how they're going to handle the platform and handle monetization. A lot of us are just like, you know what? Fuck it. I won't make any money on the videos. And, there's so many people who are just like, we're just going to take money, we're going to accept donations from, the viewer base, and that's how we'll pay the bills so that we can just do what we want to do and not have to worry about, I happened to mention weed in the first minute, or I dropped an F-bomb in the first minute. Now I'm fucking demonetized, or, YouTube has just, been really... It's been trying to be squeaky, and it's like, you can't do that, You can't do that. You can't be an internet platform where you let video creators just create videos and do content and then try and turn it squeaky. And at this point, I think everybody's just finally ready to say, you know what, fuck the money. I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it.
I think I agree with you on the whole. I've definitely experienced that now where I don't make any money on ad revenue anymore, really. Partly because ad revenue has become almost worthless inherently, and partly because my audience doesn't watch my videos anymore. So for many reasons, I'm just like, I'll just do whatever I like. It doesn't matter. But I think in general, it's also applicable in many cases because of, like you said, it's kind of just been pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's become just not worth even trying to conform to all the rules now at this point. Especially with all the the chance now is that your video is going to get copyrighted, even if you own the rights to whatever is in it.
Yeah.
So why care? Just assume it will get copyrighted.
And I think at this point too, you've always had your kind of base and senseless kind of stuff, but blue humor where there's not a whole lot going on there is always, there, for the sort of 13-year-old kind of humor. But I think people are going to very shortly start really coming back to the fine art of the dick joke. The fine, no one can argue that Carlin was anything other than the finest art of, it was phallus humor because it was Carlin doing it, and he knows how to fucking elevate it. It wasn't fart jokes, it was passing wind jokes or something. It was just really fucking good. And I think that also you're going to see a lot of people who are just realizing that that with the way that the culture has been pulled toward a squeakier kind of direction, that means you can actually stand out by being, I'm not encouraging anyone to be a fucking Andrew Dice Clay, but there was something to that was like, all right, there's something going on over there. It's fucking interesting. It's maybe not my bag, but I like to see that somebody's doing that. But yeah, I think some entertainers will just end up going that direction because it's like they'll realize, oh, well, I can stand out a little bit more than everybody else if I do.
No.
It's weird because my definition of clean humor versus dirty humor has changed so much. What is clean humor to me now would have been dirty humor to me, and then 10 years ago when I was a kid. Yeah. But
yeah, see, I
do feel like there's that we're pulled back right now.
Maybe I've just got older and have started watching the type of shows that have like incredible amounts of nudity and kind of sexual references and stuff. But I feel like more shows now are beginning to lean into that stuff in quite a heavy way. Like I just finished watching season 2 of Sex Education on Netflix as well. And it's exactly what the name implies. Like it's just rampantly everything is about sex. And I heard as well, I haven't seen this yet, although I intend to watch an episode just because it sounds so bizarre. But a couple of friends over the weekend were telling me about is it called Naked Attraction? The premise that they told me is that you essentially contestants come on the show and are sat on a very high chair. So high, in fact, that only their feet are in frame. And then they lower the chair bit by bit, and you see their ankles, their legs, their knees. Then, because they're sitting down on a chair and they're completely naked, their vagina or their penis, depending. And at each stage, apparently, I mean, hologram, if you've seen it, you can inform us all, but like, there's someone there who gets to compare these people and kind of say whether they think they're going to find the person attractive or not. So they have to determine that based on their, purely lower half up. It's just like it feels like such a weird U-turn from where society is going in terms of, oh, we shouldn't judge people based on their appearances. It's all about the personality. It's like, well, here's a show which is purely appearance. And like the most kind of intimate and revealing appearance possible. And
Yeah, that's
I
kind of the
feel like
problem when you come out of the dips and lulls and stuff like that. You when somebody starts, you usually get one or two characters, who emerge on the scene who are really doing something, amazing I'm thinking in humor terms, but it doesn't have to be humor terms. I mean, you think about The Crying Game when that came out, having a film that was, you clearly haven't seen it, that's fine, a film where it's like, I mean, it's just a complete fucking turning thing. There's the IRA and there's terrorists, things, and then dude needs to go underground and then he falls in love with a woman and the woman turns out to be a man, and they pull back and show the full frontal nudity and she's got a dick when they're finally gonna get down, and then he ultimately decides that he's fucking into her, so they're together. It's like it was a complete fucking psych out for everybody in the audience. They had no idea that he was that kind of a thing, and that was a pushing of the fucking boundaries kind of a thing, and that's what I'm talking about. We have different boundaries now in this culture today, and you can say that they're wider, but I don't see, I want to see more people pushing on the boundaries, and I think we're just about starting to turn it. The bad thing that always comes from that is that when people who know what they're doing, like Carlin and, and Bill Hicks and things like that, start doing something that's really wow, amazing, then you get everybody else coming on going, oh, okay, so dick jokes are in, and then it's just here's a dick, and that's the joke, and then and that's how it burns out as fast as it does. We get something that's really fucking artful, and it's yeah, it's dick humor, but it's there's an art of the language, and there's a whole, there's a
like you said, it's phallus humor.
And yeah.
Some people doing phallus humor, some people doing dicks.
Yeah, and there's cultural, there's the art of the language, and there's the cultural taking the piss out of society and things, all that's working, and then once it becomes, once it starts catching on, then everybody just starts showing up and being like, suck my balls! Funny! No? Okay.
I feel like I really like Rick and Morty as a TV show just because I enjoy it, but it's one of those things where a lot of the jokes in Rick and Morty are, I think, trying very desperately to be kind of society satirizing. But they're not. It really is just, hey, balls, suck my dick.
I mean, that's good. That could be good in a situation.
Oh, it's funny. Like it's enjoyable, but it's that kind of the problem you're outlining of saturating the marketplace with too much of a controversial thing. Whereas to begin with, that controversial thing is actually well formulated and measured, and has a very strong message in it. But then everyone else just sees, well, we can be controversial like they are, and just does it to be controversial and to gain, ride that bandwagon,
Yeah,
I
you
suppose.
gotta ask yourself the question, like, do we have something to say? And if you do, then,
Never ask that question because you'll
say
just
it.
realize that no, no, we don't. What's the point? Well, end of the show, guys. Bye bye.
I want like things between like I want hard lines there. I want people, artists who recognize I have a thing to say, I have something that I want to talk about, and I'm going to do that through my art. And if my art is humor, if my art is whatever it is, I'm going to put that in there. And then on the other side, I want people to go, I don't really have anything to say today, right now. So fuck it, and they're gonna make their art that way, but what you're sort of talking about with that kind of thing is where you get people like blending in the middle where they feel like they have to do it. I get the feeling that a lot of South Park episodes ended up there, because I mean, you think of like how much South Park was always taking the piss out of something societally, and I think they actually ended up managing it pretty well, eventually. But there's just sometimes where it's like, you don't really have a fucking political platform to talk on this week. Just do the dick and fart joke, fucking kid humor with the. Just do that and don't be ashamed about it. Don't be like, well, we got to somehow bring this back to, Trump, and just let it be. Just let it be.
Yeah, I mean, it's that
Just
kind of
know what
creates
you're doing
pressure
and
when
do it.
they feel like they've set an expectation for what the show is, and then trying to deviate from that is dangerous. And so it's better to try and continue being the same thing that's working, even if you have nothing to say and it kind of turns out a bit mediocre or tenuous.
Hmm.
But I agree. Actually, I like the idea of this. You know how YouTube is forcing this, like the new homepage is all the trending videos with some of your subscriptions in there, and you have to click onto a different tab to go to your subscriptions.
Hmm.
Well, that idea of like the two pages, I think there should be default is videos that have a thing to say, and that would be kind of, you know, just I suppose more the educational side of stuff, but not even just education. Anything with a message. It could be artwork, it could be comedy, it could be whatever. And you have that for when your brain is on and you actually want to kind of think about something. And then you click over to the other tab and it's for when your brain is off. And it's just content for the sake of content. It's just PewDiePie chatting about memes on his Reddit page, or which
Top
is
10
my kind of
lists. And
yeah.
you'll never believe.
WatchMojo.com.
And, life hacks, this one simple trick, and your dick grows. Well, no, they won't let you do that on YouTube.
10
Although I
more
did.
ways that Marvel actors were told to perform, episode 3. Yeah. There is a channel I watch. I think it's not Wired. Wired is a decent establishment, aren't they? They're the kind of tech people with a YouTube channel that's pretty good. There's one, oh, I can't remember what it is now, but I have one
Polygon.
lingering subscription. Polygon, yeah, I kind of only watch Polygon for BDG, to be honest. I don't
Yeah.
I don't watch any of their other stuff now.
I watched some of
Uh,
their other stuff. It's tolerable, but God, that it's very much like I feel like I know where you're going with this, and Polygon is very much like, they just they've got agreements. They are trying to sell merchandise, and they've got a like this video is sponsored by Intel, and so we're going to like do what has become sort of the corporate version of, you know, internet humor, because you can't be too stuck up about it. Like literally Polygon is very often caught being the guy at E3 wearing the jeans and the blazer, but he's got like, a Galaga, like a t-shirt underneath it, or a Galaga t-shirt underneath it, like it's got to have some kind of, hey, I'm hip and I'm into the things you're into. But also I do need to sell you these things today. And so we've got a new architecture.
It's like, hey, I'm doing all this ironically, but please genuinely buy this. There's one quote, I don't remember who it's from. I think it might have even been a David and Mitchell kind of thing, where if you enjoy something ironically, you're still enjoying it. So this is a bit of a tangent away, but when we're talking about kind of that non-content you can watch, well, there's this Love Island TV show. Which have you heard of Love Island?
No.
Oh God, don't go look into it. But essentially, it's just let's get 10 attractive people with relatively few brain cells to force them together onto an island
At a
and
wet bar.
and and give them all the kind of luxuries of life that they might want, and just tell them to live with each other and to form couples. And at the end of the show, then the one couple that makes it all the way through gets £10,000 or whatever. But it's just like, oh God, it's mind numbing stuff. Uh,
Wait, so
and
this is
the
just
problem
like
is,
I think we've got like a lot of that on this side of the water. Is Love Island like a specifically, British show?
yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
all people who talk like this. Um,
Okay.
yeah, there's a few alternatives of it now, but my
But I
point
mean,
is
we've got
that
fucking, what have we got? The 90-Day Fiance and shit over here. We've got, like, yeah, we got all those. I know exactly the kind of thing you're talking about
it's that
because
kind of shit.
I
Yeah.
believe we have like 15 or 20 that you can choose from on television at any hour, at any time. Just click through and go, no, I don't want that one. We have a lot of that.
So my point is those kind of shows which have nothing to say, they're just it's just self-perpetuating vacuous crap. Um, you can enjoy it genuinely, in which case you're probably God, why would you enjoy it genuinely? Or you can enjoy it to be like, look at these, look, oh, I can't believe people actually watch this. God, this thing is so terrible. But still get that kind of twisted satisfaction of watching something terrible and knowing it's terrible, but watching it anyway. And the funny thing is that there's no intellectual superiority there, despite what you may think. Just because you're aware that what you're watching is probably pretty terrible. If you're enjoying it, you're still enjoying it. It's still working on you.
Yeah,
And that was
I've
exactly it.
heard
David
that.
Mitchell.
Oh, was it? Yeah, somebody's. Who was it that I said or that I heard? That's the
Mitchell
quote
and
stuck
Webb
in
did
my
one
head
about The
anyway. Was
Apprentice, which is another TV show. Have you heard of The Apprentice?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
He's our
business
president
people.
now.
Well, was he? Did he do an American Apprentice one? Or
I think yeah,
what?
wasn't he? I mean, I never watched this shit, but The Apprentice, Trump, was he not? Was it a
Maybe he
different
was. I
one?
mean, we
Yeah,
have a
no, he
Lord
was the guy.
Alan Sugar.
2004, 15 seasons. The Apprentice. Donald Trump brings in fucking assholes, and teaches them how to be a more asshole. Because you stick with what you're good at. So he's teaching other people how to be a dick.
Oh.
15 fucking seasons.
Wow, Jesus Christ. Yeah, we have a UK version of this. I don't know which one came first. Um, but yeah, so we have a kind of similar asshole who does does our one and brings on assholes and tries they bid for his partnership in whatever asshole business they're creating. But yeah, the David and Mitchell skit was about that. It was like originally the intention was, yeah, let's get on really, smart intellectual professionals and have them compete for real jobs. And it might just be really interesting to see the actual reality of this workplace world. And then I think they ran one season and it's like, people, this is really boring. This is really boring. What if we just got idiots and had them compete for an idiot job? What is the amount of money that an idiot would think is worthwhile going on national TV and embarrassing themselves for? What is like the smallest large amount of money? I think they said it's like £10,000. £10,000. That's the smallest large amount of money that an idiot would completely humiliate themselves for. It's like, great, we'll give them that. Or something like that,
Well, that's a lot of television is built on that now. We've got whole fucking, just family lineages. We have royalty over here, just public eye
Oh,
royalty that is built on their reality
Kardashians.
fucking shows. Yeah, just
Mm.
people, and I mean, they had money in the first place, married into, for the most part, all the people who end up on those shows. But yeah, I mean, just being an idiot in America and having money is worthy of having your own television show and cult following. People will
Mm.
definitely follow you on Twitter. But we are talking about money and we are talking about idiots and stuff. And the topic for today, as selected by 104 fucking people, it was 60 of the votes out of 104 votes that we can't possibly have had. Thank you, hacker.
Oh, supposedly the working theory was that sometimes people go through random straw poll URLs and hope to find real polls and then vote in them. So I guess ours just came up as an easy to find one. It seems a bit tenuous to me, but sure.
What a weird hobby to have. Just type in weird characters in the straw polls. Let's go to the next character. Ooh, if I knew what this had anything to do with, I would vote for that. What?
Yeah.
But yeah, wealth inequality was selected by the 60 people out of the 104.
No, come on, let's be
Overwhelming.
real. Selected by the one person with the 60 votes. Oh. Yes, wealth inequality.
Which
There
is
is wealth
the
in this world.
concept of some people have money and some don't, and so it's unequal.
Mm.
That's now you've caught up to it. All right, let's go back to, so in Python, I was wondering if you could help me with the auto splitter, because I'm gonna have to do like a file loading thing, and I'm not.
Have you considered using machine learning and AI techniques? Because everything needs AI now. Yes, not to drag us away from the topic, but I'd just say quickly that I was speaking to a guy recently who organizes kind of research placements for people and works a lot with academics. And one of the things that he regularly tells people is, if you can put AI on your CV, just put it on there. Because like there's a non-negligible statistical improvement in how many jobs you'll get when you say AI on your CV. Yeah. Anyway, so wealth inequality porn. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? First question.
It's a bad thing. You
Why,
fucking
Paul?
stupid? What kind of
What?
shows do you watch? You fucking watch fucking
People-
Island. Fuck Island? What was it called again? Hump Island.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was called Hump Island. Yeah.
Bangin' Island.
Bangin' Babe Island.
Fuck, where have I got
No,
that?
but
No,
porn.
no.
These all the people who have all this
No.
money in the world, they had incredibly good ideas, and they played their cards right, and they earned the money they have, right? So why is that a problem?
Well, all right. Now this is, try and follow me, everybody. Try and follow me. But if there are 10 apples, and Jenna takes 8 of the apples, and there's 3 billion other people who want apples today, how many apples does everyone else get individually? That's the problem, basically, with it. That's why it's bad. Wealth is, by the way, I am insane about, like, I am crazy about
No, stop there.
socialism.
Just we know you're insane.
But yeah, when it comes to this topic, I will go on for fucking hours. But, very simply, the basic concept here is that wealth is a limited resource. And some people don't think it's a limited resource, but I assure you, it's a limited resource. We can't just print more money. We can't just hand out more money to everybody. And that causes inflation. Why does that cause inflation? Because wealth is limited, is inherently tied to resources. There is so much wealth, and we can print dollars as much as we want, and it'll just reduce the value of each of those dollars. Your loaf of bread will cost $3,000 if we just print a whole bunch of money. It's tied to resources, and therefore it is a limited commodity. And when one person takes a whole bunch of something, then the other people don't get to have as much. That's basic.
Okay,
I know it's
sure.
kindergarten math here, but 10 minus 9 leaves 1 for the rest of everyone.
Sure. But how would you distribute Jenna's apples in a fair way then, to ensure that all of those 3 billion people get, 3 billionth of an apple per apple each?
Well, it
What
turns
is the
out
alternative?
there are actually way more apples than we actually need. There are far more apples than 10 to serve the 3 billion. There are probably 5 billion apples. Thankfully, there are 5 billion apples, And so the way that I would go about it is I would make sure that everyone got an apple, and then people who, wanted to chase after getting extra apples, or, who needed more apples because they're going to open up an apple shop, or they want to do special things with apples, those people could, like, go after the extra 2 billion apples after everybody got an apple.
Right. So
That's
this
how
is
I
you're
do it.
talking about UBAI, which is good to have AI in there. It's going to help more people think this is worthwhile saying.
I'll put it on my
Universal basic
resume.
Apple income. Are we talking about? Universal basic income. So that's the idea where the government essentially just gives everyone what they need to actually live off of, and then on top of that you earn things, right?
Yeah, I'm open to. I think that's the best way to go about it, especially in the state that we've got things right now. Is we cannot forever. We can only go on for so much longer. Living in a world where some people have houses built on cliff sides, $1 million mansions overlooking vistas of the ocean, and then a 15-minute drive away or less, there's people sleeping in boxes. We just can't do that in perpetuity. We really can't get away with doing it right now, but it's not gonna hold out. And the last time this was going on, like really seriously, they pulled out the fucking guillotines and the heads came off. And I'm saying it's gonna happen again. All right, watch out, LA. But like, something has to change, and I think in the culture that we've got right now, the way that people, value and the arguments that come, from sort of fiscal conservative side of things, you have to absolutely reward people who claim to be working harder or smarter, or, I'm industry, I'm an entrepreneur. You have to reward them, just because otherwise they'll fucking become evil villains and bomb us or something. They're sociopaths. There's a lot of them are sociopaths. The fucking boardrooms of corporate America, absolutely, I fucking guarantee you, if there's a person who's not a sociopath in that room, they are shitting themselves every day hoping that the other sociopaths don't realize they're not a sociopath, because once the pack realizes one of the wolves is injured, that's how it's gonna go, and they know it. So, like, you can't just say, everybody gets an equal amount, because that just won't work and people will kill each other. But, caring for, like, setting a bare basic minimum. If you are a human being, this is how much money you need to, like, survive. If you're an adult, if you've got children, that kind of thing, you figure it out and you say, this is the bare basic minimum that we are going to decide as a society is a reasonable income upon which a person can live. And then, if somebody decides to take what I would assume to be, because my mother's on SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, so in America, I would assume that the income would be basically what hers is, which would be like, a little over $1,000 a month, $1,100 a month. You can go out and earn more. But for the people, because this is going to be an argument, I know this is going to be an argument from, fiscal conservatives. What about the people who are just going to take it and go, it's not going to solve homelessness, it's not going to solve drug addiction, they're going to take it and they're going to go out. Well, then we did our part, is the thing, We cared for other human beings as though they were human beings, and if they choose to take that money and run off and, fucking blow it all on blow, and then end up living in a cardboard box still, that's another societal issue. But we start by actually making sure that there's no reason why anyone needs to starve to death, freeze to death because they don't have a house or can't pay their heat in winter. The lights are on, the fucking basics of being a human being, being able to survive and be able to move forward are taken care of. And you just can't, I don't think you can call yourself like a decent fucking human being if some version of that does not come into play here. Like, there has to be some concern for other people, and the reliance on the free market, I simply say, how's it doing right now? It's not like it's a new premise, It's not like, oh, we just need to give it more time, the free market, we just need to give capitalism another chance. No. Capitalism's been doing what it's been doing for quite a while, and, our society started to turn, every time that our society turns, the global society turns in a good direction, it's because some aspect of socialism came in, because something came in to override capitalism. Capitalism is why slavery. Capitalism is why fucking color lines being drawn, is why certain people go to certain schools, or like the things that we have done away with, and making sure that everyone gets an education and all these kinds of things. These are socialist platforms based on the idea that other people are other people and not other animals, and fuck them, And every time that we've done that, technology has spurred forward, education has spurred forward, quality of life has increased. So long as we have relied exclusively on capitalistic models based on basically monarchy, where one person has all of the wealth and everybody's in service to them, it just ended up, having a country full of slaves, and then some people over here, some dukes and people who had some wealth. I could go on, but you've been sitting there very kindly, Harvey.
It's interesting. So a thought popped into my head, which was that wealth inequality really isn't what you're objecting to then. Because say that we establish a universal basic income for everyone, and everyone gets that bare minimum, preferably a decent living wage. Well, not really a wage, a decent amount to live on. And so then above and beyond that, people can compete in essentially a free market in order to, start up their own businesses, create their own products and sell them to the other people. And some people will get incredibly rich through that system on
No.
top of the thin layer of universal basic income. No?
No, my pitch is also wage cap, or there's at a certain point, one person doesn't get any more than that. Sorry, and that's a
Ooh.
necessary part of, you can't just, like I said, you can't print more money, so you cannot have Bill Gates being Bill Gates, you cannot have Jeff Bezos being Jeff Bezos.
But
I've got all the
how-
wealth, and then also provide for all of the people on the ground, because it is a limited resource and they've got way too fucking much of it. We need that resource back.
But okay. So, I mean, but do you like having smartphones in the world?
Yeah.
So, how then do you allow manufacturing industries to start up and start printing components on mass scale in order to bring down the cost of technologies and to be able to drive, innovation and consumer products and things? If you can't have wealthy people making big investments, and buying factories and building things like that on a large scale, if you can't concentrate wealth
You don't
to any
have
degree,
wealthy individuals. You have people pitching in together. You'll have wealthy individuals, because my concept of an income cap would be, it's not going to be like nobody makes more than 50 grand. It's going to be, something a bit higher than that. But, you would have people coming together who want to do things. You could also legislate for organizations to have the ability to, to have larger amounts of wealth and that sort of a thing, but that would have to
Right,
be
and
very
so they
heavily
just-
regulated, because
So, for instance, you and I started this amazing new podcast, and everyone wants to fund it. We create a company, and then our pay from the company is capped at whatever the individual wage income cap is.
and then you
But
hide
then
you hide your
So
wealth in the
then-
company.
right.
I mean,
so then you
that's
just,
what we kind of have in this, current
Yeah.
setup here, is like Bezos and stuff like that. People talk about their wealth and stuff, and they have exorbitant amounts of like liquid capital, but it, also has to do with ownership and things like that. So that's why I say it would have to be heavily regulated if you went that road. But fundamentally, these, issues of like, how do we finer tweak the legislative, how do we do this? I've got proposals and stuff, but fundamentally, like, if we don't do this, we're all pieces of shit. If we decide to continue to live in a world, like, if the argument is, well, how would that happen? Like, my argument is, okay, well then let's just let all of Southeast Asia continue to be fucking slaves to our supply chains for Walmart. Like, no, we can't stay there forever as humanity. Like, this has gone on for far too fucking long. And eventually, at some point, especially in this country where so many fucking fiscal conservatives claim to be goddamn Christians, Jesus Christ was a pretty fucking flaming socialist. The man was pretty much about, you should have nothing and give everything to everyone else. And by the end of the day, if you're doing that and everybody else is doing that, then everybody's taken care of. And you don't worry about yourself, you know? Let God worry about you. And you care for everybody else and be their good stewards. And that does fucking work, by the way. But fundamentally, like, how can you call yourself a decent human being? You know, like the idea that, oh, technology wouldn't go anywhere. Technology has been a product of fucking education, which, when it was a private thing that relied completely on wealth, was so, you know, small and narrow that technology was fucking stagnant. It was only once we started, like, rolling education out to actually everybody that, you know, we get the fucking industrialized era and we get the technological boom and you know. You disagree?
Ooh, I don't know if I'm convinced by. Is that not just correlation with the Industrial Revolution and all that? Is it really causation of mass education causing that? I mean, I'm not, to clarify, I'm not saying, ah, fucking mass education. Well, what good has that done for the world? Definitely, like, a more educated populace is way better for many reasons. Um, but I think technology comes about through demand for things, right?
And where does that demand come from?
Well, for instance, two nations want to go to war with each other, as a kind of blatant cliche example, but we'll have a space race. And so the LED, for instance, got invented by as part of the NASA program for getting to the moon, which essentially was just an arms race, you know?
Like, do you think that JFK pitches "Let's all go to the moon" in a country of people who are uneducated and don't have access to wealth and have a low quality of life? Do you think, like, in a country
If-
where, like, there's, you know, a king and queen lordship and then everybody else is a fucking shit farmer who's been uneducated or just stands on an assembly line putting the same bolt on the same thing every day, and then JFK says, "We're going to fight the commies by going to the moon"? You think everybody goes, "Yay!" Or do you think they go, "Motherfucker, I'm fucking knee deep in shit out here trying to pull in turnips. You want to go to the fucking moon?" I don't.
India sent a Mars probe to Mars not too long ago.
Really?
And yeah, and most of India's populace is on the end of the spectrum towards what you just described, right? I mean,
I
compared to
suppose
America
so.
anyway.
So the Indian populace had nothing to fucking do with that. And
Yeah.
India is set up in such a way that, you know, the culture, the living standards, the living wage is so fucking low that what you have is just so much goddamn wealth. I mean, did India really send anything to Mars? Or are we talking
Yeah, no,
about,
no, it was
like,
entirely an Indian driven program, yeah.
yeah, but
Although
are
to
we
be
talking
fair,
about basically 25, like, incredibly wealthy people who run all of India's capital who decided, we're gonna do this? And then the billion fucking people in India were like, oh, I guess they're doing that today. Well, let's get this cow down the road.
I mean, yes, I think what you've described is probably accurate, but then I also think that's probably accurate for, like, the space race probably would have mostly happened even if America was in a worse off living position per person, right? I mean, if so long
Like,
as the wealth is concentrated in the government and they have the resources to do whatever the fuck they want to do, then they're probably going to do it,
I
even with
mean,
or without.
this would get into, like, whether or not we have a functioning democracy in our country, but you know, these people still have to be elected, and if people are, you know, living in fucking shit, at least in this country, these people still have to be elected. And if people are living in shit and your representatives are like, we're gonna take the money that we take from you every year in the form of taxation while you struggle just to survive and eat and live and stay warm in the winter, and we're gonna build tin cans and fill them with explosives and shoot them at the thing out there. What do you think? I don't think that you can get away with that politically speaking. You know, until you have breached a certain quality of life barrier, which is inherently, you know, tied to the, you know, the workers and how much everyone receives as an income. Uh, And of course, all of that was happening at a time where, politically speaking, only certain people had rights. I mean, people like to forget about that, you know, and like late 60s, I believe, maybe even early 70s, there were still Jim Crow laws in this country. You know, it has not been, you have not had equality of human beings based on fucking race and skin color, but for 50 years or so in America. And we're still in, you know, a deep recovery from that and shit. I don't know. I've gone off onto yet another tangent, but I also feel like you're way off on these fucking tangents too. We're talking about wealth inequality, and you're trying to find like, how does the space race? What if like the argument
No,
that
no, no,
if
'cause
education,
that was a pretty decent
if
link
not
there.
education, then space race still happens. Therefore, you know, capitalism. Yay! I don't understand. How does this connect? What are these
Well,
tissues?
this all connected through the argument that technology is driven by demand, not by just general education of the populace, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
so
Where are you coming from
I'm
there?
so my main so I agree with you on everything from an I, I, ideological point of view, I think. And I'm just trying to fit that model into pragmatically how would we enable uh, great humanity operations, you
Elon
know?
Musk kind of works.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how would SpaceX
Yeah.
exist without allowing some because either you allow people to accrue a massive amount of wealth, which I agree, like, isn't necessary. It's not necessary for that person, and if the wealth is in their pocket, it's not in all the people pockets who therefore need it, proportionally need it more than they do.
Hmm.
Um, But the problem is that if you want to do anything big, you kind of have to accrue this wealth in some place. And so you could just stick it in the actual company entity itself, but you're basically doing the same thing. That it's always the problem of you're like this. You know the fallacy of a trickle down economy, right? Where
I think I've
it
heard of
doesn't
that.
matter if the factory owners get all of the money, because the factory owners will then go out and they'll spend the money in the marketplace, and therefore the people working in the marketplace and the lower paid wages will, their wages will get paid, and so the money will just kind of trickles down.
Yeah, what a
the
good idea.
reason the reason it's a fallacy is because rich people save money.
Oh.
Rich people don't spend all their money. Rich people invest the money into bonds and put it in Swiss bank accounts, and it just piles up. And that's like the real kind of sink. If it was that if they spent everything that they didn't need to live, then sure, it would be going back out to the economy and would be moving from person to person. Then some of it, might end up with each person. Um, but that's
Yeah.
not the case. Rich people save far more money than that.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they maintain a large, yeah, and the stock market and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the stock market is, we're gonna get into this when we come back from the live stream break, but fucking, I got statistics over here. I just pulled up a random website before the live stream because I knew we were talking about this. I got statistics over
Yeah.
here about the stock market, and like 1% of the wealthiest people, are like half of the stock market or more. I'm not sure where it is in here to find the exact statistics, but it's like, that's what's going on. That's where the money is. It's all tied up in like, it's non-liquid assets sitting somewhere, and someone's using it to invest into something else. Someone's using it over here, and like this shit, we don't need like a government to like, decide what businesses to start and which businesses not to start. Um uh, we've just gotten so, we're accustomed currently to the way that things work, which is that one wealthy individual or, a few investors who have massive resources come together and decide they're going to do something, and then they invest $300 million in order to make a giant thing that does something.
Hmm.
The way that things used to go is that you would like prove a concept, do a short run, see that people will buy it, then keep, evolving and making a business larger and larger and larger. And, at this point, it's like you you see that someone else has already done something, that they've been successful in the marketplace, and then you try to drive them out of the marketplace by the force of your massive wealth. is kind of more the generic business operating principles.
Yeah, or
of
you
the
just
modern
buy
law.
that company,
Yeah, or
and
just
now it's your company.
you can drive their value down, and then you buy them up, and then now you're making the profit and kind of shit. And it's just like it's fucking ridiculous. And
So I
I
want us to. I think we should go to this live stream break, and then when we come back, I want us to try and create this. How do we enable things like SpaceX, which I think you agree SpaceX is a fantastic thing for humanity, right?
yeah, I
Oh,
guess.
or not. Um, I mean, I hope so. I mean, you have to come back to kind of fundamental axioms of what do you hope for humanity. What I hope for humanity is that we get off of Earth and establish, presence out in the solar system and beyond, so that we, so that we kind of get over this hump of finite resources in the planet and gain massive amounts of resources out in the solar system and be able to do big, exciting, incredible things and all that exciting stuff. Um, which you can say like, oh well, kind of what's the point? But like,
Yeah, no, I
there
would like
doesn't
to see
necessarily
that,
is a point.
but I
I
feel
just want
like
it to happen because I think it's cool.
if we went forward as we currently operate, as we are right now and built on capitalism and shit like that, there'd be no point. It'd just be more money, to be in the hands of the, richest 0.2% of human beings while everybody else is down. You end up with with all of the sci-fi stories. We will end up with the fucking Mars colony of just miners that just, fucking slaves paying for their oxygen and shit like that. That kind of a thing. It will be Total Recall. We need to do the live stream break. We will continue and we will talk more. We're gonna look at chat. And hi, Greg Aubrey, and hi, Gromit too. We're gonna go to the live stream break. We'll be back in 7 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Harv and Pawn not out.
It's your birthday.
That's the wrong. I had a song queued from before.
Ah.
Hang on. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna reset. And then what do you feel like? How about you like some jazz?
Jazz will be good.
Okay, I don't have any jazz. How about this? Welcome. Oh, geez. Wow, that was an awkward transition. Welcome back to the show. I pressed the buttons. What? What do you got?
Welcome.
How did you get a shotgun mic?
I did. I bought myself. Well, I didn't buy myself. I chose one, and then my girlfriend Julie got me as a birthday present. Now I can have three microphones.
Are you mic'd yet? Have we got a mic? Houston, get another mic on this man. We need to hear him. Can't hear him. Turn him up.
Yeah. So thank you for peeing, all of you. I hope you had a nice pee time. Before we continue
Welcome
on
back
with
to the urination.
The urination. Before we continue on with our enlightening, actually really interesting debate / discussion on wealth inequality that we're having, that I'm quite enjoying, we do have a skit to show you this week. And so I reckon maybe now would be a good time to roll the skit. What do you reckon?
The skit? We have a
we have a thing.
Okay, the button's here. I'm gonna press. I mean, Houston, press the button.
There's a carbon dioxide tank on the side which gets pulled to it and it explodes on impact.
Oh yeah, you're
carbon
right. Yeah.
dioxide. Oh hey.
Hey.
Oh hey, Kyle.
What are you guys talking about?
Well, we're just talking about movie mistakes. Trent here is a film critic.
Oh, film critic. Really?
Oh, do you know what I hate most? Sound in space.
Sound in space. Yeah. God, hate that.
What's wrong with sound in space?
You know there's no air in space, right?
Yeah, that's why people explode if they leave a spaceship, right?
That's another myth. You don't explode. You just, kind of lightly boil. You can survive for over 30 seconds, I think.
Really?
All those films, all so wrong.
Huh.
Ooh, I've got one for you. Asteroid belts.
Asteroid belts?
Asteroid belts.
Asteroid belts.
Oh, asteroid belts. They're nowhere near that dense.
Yeah, because in reality, the distance between asteroids and an asteroid belt is like hundreds of thousands of miles. You could fly straight through and never see a single one.
Asteroid belts aren't dense. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Instant communications. What about the speed of light? Heard of it?
Falling out of orbit just because the engine stopped working.
Slowing to a halt in space just because the engine stopped working. You've just got to wonder how all these filmmakers get all this stuff so wrong. All the time.
Yeah, you'd think they'd do at least a little bit of research into the area they're making a movie about. They should hire consultants or something.
Oh, they do.
What was that?
They do hire consultants when they're making films. You know what? It's getting late, isn't it? Jeez, I think I'm gonna head out.
Kyle, it's 9 p.m. You literally just arrived.
Yeah, pretty late. I got so much. I got work to do, folks calls to make.
What work do you do?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Hot dogs. Hot dog man. That's me. That's I'm the guy, on this all beef. It's just how I roll.
Oh yeah, you're a consultant, aren't you, Kyle?
No, actually. I used to. Yeah, I was once, but not after today, probably.
What type of consultant were you? I used to be a medical device consultant, yeah. I'd go into companies and help them set up their QMS system in order to comply with the latest standards. And it was pretty interesting, actually, but blah, 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 blah,
Consultant, aren't you, Kyle?
Filmmakers get all this stuff so wrong.
All wrong.
And I was like, ISO 1345 2016. Am I right?
Films.
What?
I consult on films.
Films? Oh, God. I hope you didn't consult on the Cloverfield paradox. That was such an...
Actually, I did consult on the Cloverfield paradox, and that film was great.
Really?
Kyle, come on. It might have been fun to watch, but the physics...
But fuck your physics. It's
people like you who are always spoiling films for everybody. Seated in the back row, sniggering about the lack of character arcs or how humans don't only use 10% of their brains. It takes one seriously stuck-up prick to believe that conforming to reality is more important than creating emotion or a compelling visual shot. Can you imagine how fucking boring Star Wars would have been if none of the lasers made any noise, or the Death Star didn't have an explosion because there's no oxygen in space to fuel the fire?
Kyle, I'm sorry, man. I know it's really easy to criticize something from the outside without actually having that inside view. I didn't mean to upset you, and I mean, I enjoyed the Cloverfield paradox. Right, Trent?
Oh, sure, yeah. Definitely a movie. Yep, definitely a movie. Had acting and everything in it.
Okay. It's just, it's a hard job, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to burst out like that. It's just, I mean, it's just so difficult to get this stuff right. I mean, there's just, it is fundamentally impossible to make a good film and have realistic physics. You know? You know?
2001: A Space Odyssey, The Expanse, Contact, Apollo 13. Hell, even Battlestar Galactica gets its thrusters right. And, well, you know the Cloverfield paradox? The artificial gravity, spinning rings, yeah? They were pulling them the wrong damn way. The rotation, Kyle, should pull them outwards.
Come here, you little piece of shit!
No, Kyle, come on, man. Oh my god! Kyle!
People like you are why we have midi-chlorians!
Kyle! Somebody help! What are you all standing there gormlessly for? Hey!
Welcome back. We did you like it? Did you like the sketch?
Did you enjoy?
We busted ass. And not even really is the thing, you know? Like trying to get on this new friggin' shooting schedule we got set up, and I'm just still like, despite our shooting schedule, which was designed to ooh, thank you, Brent Geary, for the subs. Designed
It's actually Little Magnets. Thank you for gifting the subs.
doing it again. And
to Brent Geary and Hans Soup Kant. Hans Soup Kant.
I still have,
Thank
you know, chronic fatigue syndrome. I still have SEIDME. So, you know, we got a schedule that's designed to make it easier. It's still hard. It's fine. We carry on. We've got bigger fish to fry. We've got all of the rich people to gather up and kill so that we can divide their resources amongst ourselves. So how do we go about that?
Well, but before we get on to the exact nature of how we're going to torture those people to death, I want to ask. So this microphone that I'm using here was, well, it's a Blue Snowball. It's like £60, $80 I think in value. Might have gone down a little bit with time. This one is a shotgun microphone that was £20, $25 off of Amazon. One of these was used for one of the characters that I played in that skit you just watched, and one of them was used for the other character. And I EQ'd them to try and make them sound roughly the same. Now, I want you to guess, people in chat right now, depending on how much attention you're paying to the thing, which one, the guy with longer hair or shorter hair, if you notice I had a haircut between doing those shots, or film critic versus his friend, essentially. Cheaper mic or more expensive mic? Which one for who? Just have a guess.
Coke or Pepsi? Coke or Pepsi?
Coke or Pepsi.
Thank you, Mosaic Task Force, for the subscription as well. 4 months now. Thank you, Little Magnets, again for the dump of subs. More names to add to the next live stream's credits roll that aren't ours. So that's helpful. It makes it look like we've got people who care.
So yes, indeed. Let's get back on
like
what
a
people
very
are...
forced laugh. Ha ha ha! Yes, let's get back to no.
Ha 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 ha! Jeez, that was funny. Time now for the news. Uh, I wanted you to try and explain to me how we could ever develop reusable rockets without allowing this wealth accumulation where money just gets sunk into a pot somewhere and is lost from the economy, essentially.
Mm. Well, first off, I want to say I don't necessarily think that that's a great thing to be doing right now. I like the
Shock.
idea that somebody's pushing forward, space technology and someone's trying to make it, but like I see no virtue to humanity rushing to go to Mars, which it seems to be the place that we're all like, oh, well, let's go land on Mars. There's nothing there. There's no like it'll be fine later when we have, fucking deep genetic manipulation backgrounds. We could like fuck with the genes of plants and make them grow. I know that you can grow things on Mars. Like everyone's realistic projection of what life will be like on Mars for the first people to settle there is going to be, we got to like trade you out every 3 years, and then your life's probably going to be shortened by this many years from the travels as well as the exposure to the constant radiation. And then while you're there, you're going to be living there. Like, what you should do is probably take a shit, and then we'll like cake the shit on the outside of the roof of the building that we can, so that it'll stop the gamma radiation from coming in because there's no fucking atmosphere. It is, everything that's going on Mars. It's not the only purpose in going to Mars, to humanity right now, is to artificially drive technology forward toward being able to do things like going to Mars.
Yeah,
but
sure.
For
I
us
agree
right
with
now,
you
we have
about
so many
Mars,
problems
but-
on this planet. I don't want to leave this planet until we sort this stuff out. That's my basic standpoint.
Okay, yeah, but you're using Mars in a far too kind of broad example there. Like, developing reusable rockets isn't just for going to Mars. There's loads of potential, or there's loads of good things that's useful for, in terms of. So I have one example that I'll use, which hopefully can generalize fairly well, which is that putting things into orbit is incredibly useful for us as a species. So reusable rockets really are just a means of us getting things into orbit without mining massive amounts of fuel and throwing away all these rocket parts that we build. It just makes everything more efficient. And the reason we want to still continue putting things into orbit is that there's designs that we can develop, like space-based solar power for delivery of really cheap carbon neutral power to countries that, developing countries and developed countries, in order to, solve many of those kind of crises that are there. Power is a incredibly useful thing that a lot of countries are still without decent electrical grids, and so people are living without, electricity in certain areas of Africa and whatnot.
Yeah, there are absolutely, benefits to evolving space technology and everything. I don't feel like the solutions to our problems are like off planet as much as they're on planet right now is my thing. So, but it's a very specific thing anyway. We want to talk about wealth inequality, and basically what you're asking is how do we get to, doing big things like that. And I think a big thing like that, you can't excuse me, can be handled governmentally. That is a large fucking public work right there. If anything is ever a large public work, that is a large public work. And you would say, well, but, they did NASA, but then they haven't been doing it lately, and we needed Elon Musk to come in and push things forward in that field. Which, is one argument. Another argument is, if the government had money to throw around, if governments of the world had more money to throw around because they were taxing corporations at the rates that they're supposed to and taxing individuals who have massive wealth at the rate that they're supposed to, NASA's budget would have been bigger and those people would have been continuing the work.
Sure.
I mean, you can't simultaneously argue that, do you think that we would have ever gotten a space program? Well, it was the governments and, spending the money to develop, that technology and get us to the fucking moon and make us into a planet that now we've got so much stuff in orbit. People are worried about how much shit we have in orbit. We got there through large government funded, public works. So we have the proof that works, low in interest and things like that,
But
that
what you're
has a lot to
describing,
do with the lack of fucking budget and being able to pay for what we need.
so I mean, you're not to kind of fall into this extreme cliche, but so what you're essentially describing is communism, right? In that you have no companies that are privately owned.
No,
Everything is state owned
I
and run.
said that's a large public work. So you are falling into
Right,
the
right.
cliche. Obviously, space travel is a large public work to be
Yeah, no,
handled
no,
on a
I'm
global and a country-based standard. But,
but even moving
people
away from
making
space
soda
travel.
and bubble gum, that's not a large public work.
Oh, so okay, so I guess we need to define that kind of split off then, because in my mind, kind of like mass manufacture is a pretty large work, right? And requires a vast sum of money, which is more than you'd reasonably want any private individual to control in this mindset,
Okay,
right?
so fundamentally what we want to do then is we want to go back to basics. We want to get on the ground level and sort of workshop what would change, how we would do this. Because we'll spend too much time getting bogged down in hypotheticals and specific, kind of things. But what would change? How would we do this? How do you actually end up getting to cell phone manufacturers and things like that? How
Okay.
do you end up with LCDs being manufactured at the, large scale that they're manufactured, so that we've got screens and everything and everywhere? Those
So
kind of questions.
I'll start us off. I think the one of the keys to all this is absolutely breaking down centralized systems into distributed systems. So that's abstract and bullshit. But so as a real example, it's the whole idea of grassroots and self-sustainability rather than you have one plant in some country in Europe which creates all of this particular type of candy. Instead, you create that candy where people eat it, and so you have many smaller areas which will create that same thing, right?
Hmm.
And you don't rely on uh this actually it's kind of hard to narrow down a good example for this, but the way we can see cars going at the moment with self-driving cars and electric cars and ride-sharing apps, or taxi. What do they call them? It is, yeah, ride-sharing apps, right? Like Uber and things.
Sure.
If you have a self-driving Uber system where you don't own a car, and so your wealth kind of isn't trapped in this thing that you don't use 99% of the time,
I'm
you
thinking
don't
about
own
selling
one, you
mine.
just summon one from your phone, and it, you know, arrives at your doorstep and takes you where you need to go, and then it goes on to the next person and does the same for them, and then you cut down on the number of cars that are on the roads and the number of cars that are in existence and need to be manufactured and stuff, and that kind of having that become a distributed thing where communities will have their cars, but the cars kind of go to where they're needed, and it's not one central organization that is running these cars and selling them to people. The breakdown there from centralization to distributed systems, I think, is one of the keys to how we might be able to
Yeah, I agree.
build this.
I agree. Things getting, because a large part of our economy in the way that the fevered capitalistic bullshit dream has laid out is that the reason why all the production is centralized in China and in fucking Malaysia and Vietnam has everything to do with the cost of the workforce. And that's basically it. The giant corporations centralize and, monopolize and buy up the people who would have been their competitors. And then they move all of their operations to the place where the people will work for the least amount of money, producing the quality that they want. I mean, that is our entire fucking economy right now. You get a t-shirt in the world, anywhere, and the cotton was grown in America because we subsidize the cost of cotton so that every other country in the world who would grow cotton can't sell their cotton on the open markets because we're paying farmers extra for growing cotton and shit like that. The taxpayers are paying, and then they take the cotton from America instead of the cotton that's grown in China, or if you're in South America, the cotton that could be grown there. They buy our cotton, Then our cotton goes over to China because that's where people will work and where they've set up the fucking manufacturing facilities. And then that cotton is, spun in by a whole bunch of fucking machines. And then off the machines come the shirts. They're all the fucking same. But then somebody gets paid, some 12-year-old in a fucking hut somewhere, gets paid to sew in the fucking label for Joe Fresh because this is going to be a Joe Fresh t-shirt. And then they take the same t-shirt off the pile and they sew it in for the next company. Oh, this is a Walmart brand t-shirt. And then the cotton that came from America that got shipped to China then gets back on a fucking boat and gets shipped back to wherever the fuck they're going to sell it to you. And then you buy the fucking t-shirt and it's fucking ridiculous.
Okay, I think I know the solution to all of this. I've figured it out.
Okay.
We
kill all the... Oh, no, that's...
3D printer in each home, which can print anything, right? So it's a technology
3D
which
printers
is
/
getting there.
loom.
Yeah. But it's one of those things which is getting there, and it's very clearly going to get there at some point. But rather than growing all your food in one country because the climate is right there, and then having to ship it around the world, and dealing with all that stuff, you just, rather than moving things from where it's cheapest to produce them and taking them to where they want to be sold or where they want to be used, you just produce them exactly where they want to be used. And so in each home, in each workplace, in each public building, whatever, you've got a 3D printer or many 3D printers, which you essentially just supply raw materials for. And the raw material supply, I guess, is going to be kind of a governmental public function in the system. But other than that, the 3D printer just fucking prints your smartphone there for you.
I think you're just a big Trekkie. You're just a big Trekkie, and you want fucking, replicators, and we don't have them yet, so it's all 3D printers.
Yes, it's exactly that. That's my substitute terminology for replicator.
No, I think I like decentralization generally speaking, but it can't be fucking mandated. You just got to change things in a way and then let the fucking economy figure itself out. People will. There's this fundamental aspect of modern capitalism, of just capitalism generally, which is the idea that people, if they didn't have to work, wouldn't work. People wouldn't do anything if they just got their money, every month. And that's fucking bullshit. That's not the case. Human beings, do you think Nikolai Tesla was doing all the things he did because he was hoping for the money? We do what we do. I'm writing a fucking auto splitter for Cluster Truck in Python right now. Why am I doing that, Harvey? I'm not, I would never sell it to anyone. I don't hope to sell it to anyone. I'm not trying to pad my fucking, resume so that I can get a job somewhere. I'm doing it because it's something that I happen to enjoy. And a big premise of my anti-capitalism platform is that, there are potentially thousands, I'm just going to say thousands, of modern Nikolai Teslas in Thailand right now. In Vietnam, there are people working in areas like Nikolai Tesla wouldn't have been Nikolai Tesla unless he was born in a situation where he had the fucking spoon in his mouth so that he could pursue the things that he wanted to pursue. Without the opportunities that were made available by, monetary wealth, that genius would have gone to waste. And, we wouldn't have phones right now, and that's for the sake of one man who happened to have a fucking brain for a certain thing and just wanted to go there and had the resources and the access and was in a position where it wasn't going to destroy his life. What I want to do is I just want to study and do research and I want to, do engineering and then all this kind of stuff. Well, okay, who's going to fucking put the food on the table tonight, Nick? That didn't have to come up. And if you just pay, if we just provide the basic needs for everybody, we will end up with a lot less people in positions that they don't want to be in, doing work and studying years in college to be in places where it's well, I'm here because I think the money will be there when I get there. But I did want to come to sort of broad, topics of what needs to change. And I like the idea, you put out decentralization. This is a big one. But I think we have to go there sooner or later. The fucking stock markets have to go. They just have to go. It's a giant casino for billionaires. And I know that right now we've got a lot tied up in stock markets. There's, retirement funds and things like that are all in there. They just shouldn't be in there. The idea of putting wealth into a place and then growing the wealth, it's a magic box. You don't grow wealth. What you do is you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of companies, starting just in Silicon Valley, millions of companies each year starting up, going public, getting hundreds of millions of dollars pumped into them, and then a quarter later, they go completely bankrupt, and the market decided, no, they're not going anywhere. And then, it's the money goes around, and then it lands in certain places. It's a giant casino. It has nothing to do with anything that is positive. It's a casino for rich people, and so much of the global wealth is tied up in these systems. And I know now it's a huge way of funding. That's how you investment comes through that stock market system. That's how you get things off of the ground. But just because it is doesn't mean that's how it can or should be. And it just makes no sense. We can't have a giant fucking casino that's got all of our money. That's got all the world's wealth in it. Evil Donner Balkan, 3 months subscription.
Thank you very much for the sub.
God, so
3 months. Hell yeah, it's that time. It's that time of month.
Gromit is really about the getting off this planet thing.
Yeah, I've been reading them as they've been coming in. I like this one. First alien contact will collapse backwards religion. Communism.
We're doing pretty good on that
involved.
topic without the aliens. I think we're moving forward from backwards religion. At this point, our problem is that we need to recognize that religion had a purpose and spirituality has a purpose, and we need to not lose what was valuable about that just because of all of the other shit that got attached to it.
And thank you, Gromit. We are indeed both awesome. As are you, dude. Having a good time. Hope you're enjoying the show.
I was talking stock market. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I want to try and... So my understanding of the stock market is probably just shaky at best. But so you want to make a company. You might initially start it as a private company, in which case you and your co-owners own it. And then at some point you go, hey, we need funding. Let's take our company public. We list it on the stock market with a certain amount of stock. And then people can buy into our company, and that's how we can fund it. And then people who own a stock in our company, we pay dividends to them depending on how much they owe, right? So I agree that, inherently it's like this big gambling casino for billionaires, like you said. So I wonder how... I mean, essentially, its only purpose, if we just control, alt, delete, if we just took it out of existence now... And kind of assume that we can move all of the pensions that are tied up in there elsewhere and so on. What you would lose is, am I right in saying you essentially just lose that one means by which companies can gain funding? Is that like literally all it is?
I mean, yeah. I mean, other than the casino aspect of it, I think that's all you really lose is, it's the public idea of being publicly traded as opposed to having exclusively private investors, having people be able to throw you $100 and then they own 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1% of your business temporarily until they sell it when it goes up. Oh, it's up by 2 cents. Let's sell our share.
Gromit says that I'm a small saver and going into the stock market has been good for me. And I think either he said that again previously or someone else said that previously, that the stock market is actually pretty useful for small savers. But I'm not 100% clear on what you mean by small saver.
I mean, that's the idea, though. It's a participation in a system that currently, you can invest your some money into just a fund that's goes toward your retirement or goes toward just growing wealth, and you can get if you've got a decent, generally speaking, it's like 7% growth is what you can get on your money back. I think but fundamentally what you're doing is you have the money at the end of the month in excess to put into a place where then your money will grow at 7% rate, or 0.0, I don't remember, but I've done the math before. you've got a retirement fund, and because you've got a retirement fund, someone else is starving somewhere. I mean, that is like the most extreme version of that, but it is like you have the privilege of fucking, taking some of your excess wealth and putting it aside so that someday you'll have so much excess wealth that you can not have to work anymore. And, you'll be able to spend the last couple of years of your life or 10 years of your life, hopefully more, living nicely, and without having to work. And that whole system is suddenly unnecessary when every individual is entitled by global law to the living wage, to just like a standard that you need per month. And then anything that you work for throughout your life that allows you to earn any, extra, that's what you do. But there's a cap on that, that's my general idea. If I haven't, been clear enough about it to this point, is, everybody gets what they need to survive. And then there is a certain point that we have to decide as a society, as a civilization, where it's like, okay, that's enough. You don't need more than that. Like, if you're making $250,000 a year, okay, that is 5 houses in Ohio that you could buy cash every year. That is 10 houses in Detroit that you could buy cash every year. This is like...
Surely you mean 250 houses every year.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I got mine for $2,001, so there's more. But I mean, you at that point, you have enough money in 1 year to buy cash out of pocket, while other people are are spending 30 years buying a home that is, $80,000 or $60,000, and they'll be paying it for 30 years while they're just trying to scrape by in this fucking dog-eat-dog world. And, when you have the excess to be able to, like, take some of your extra, it's just, there's got to be a cutoff point. $250,000 is a lot of fucking money for any individual, and when you have, that much more than everybody else, you are part of the reason why other people go hungry.
There's a very widely cited study for how an increase in income correlates with an increase in happiness. And essentially, sure, it does correlate up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And that certain point...
I know these figures off the top of my head.
Oh, do you? What do you think that certain point is?
Well, what I read, I mean, it was right around $100,000, $100,000
yeah.
USD, and then it was like you get quality of life, just like I'm happy, and then as soon as you passed $100,000, it just started to fall off.
Yeah, so one here has said 75 grand per year. I think I remember one which was £50,000, which probably is about 75 grand in US dollars. And yeah, I can't find the actual study, but I really buy into this idea, and I think I agree with you completely on... I wonder about kind of a forcible cap. And then in some ways, I don't worry about it. I don't wonder about it at all, because, like,
I mean, I think
if you
of it
can
in
earn
terms
70
of...
grand in today's economy right now, with the value of the money being what it is, that you can have such a great standard of living.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder, what percentage of the population could we give 70 grand a year if we took all of this piled up wealth and earnings from people who are earning that much who don't really use it, and just somehow distribute it.
Well, and see, that's I mean, imagine that, because we're talking about 70 grand, and that's like where your maximum happiness is seems to be tested at. But I'm talking about, like, bare minimum would be about $1,000 a month for every person. So we're talking about $12,000 a year is, and I don't make that, Harvey. I don't make $12,000 a year. I'm a fucking professional. I do this for a living. What the fuck was I thinking, right? I don't make $12,000 a year. So imagine, $70,000 a year. It doesn't sound like that much either. I mean, there's lots of people in the U.S. economy who, think of like 45 grand, 50 grand. That's just feels like average. And, for the middle class, that's average, I guess. Imagine
it must
I
be
get
slightly
by...
above average, right? Surely.
I don't know. Like, and
Ooh,
the
let's
thing
find
is,
out.
you can't really even trust any of the fucking statistics that you can get on this topic because they're just like, you can do the math so many different ways. Who do you consider part of the middle class? Who do you consider part of the lower class? What is the, you'd want to just find what is the median income of all, people, and then how many of the lower income people are not being counted. There's so much going on, especially in this country where like legislation gets passed this year about the U.S. Census, where it's completely a Republican attempt to stop people from being counted. They're trying to make people afraid of responding to the census. They're trying to make immigrants and just people in. Anyway, what was I saying? Something about but $12,000 a year, like that's what I'm talking about here. 12 grand a year. Can you imagine having to live on just 12 grand a year? Because I live on less, I live on, if I make 5 digits in a year, it's a pretty good year for me right now. If I see a $600 month, that's like, okay, good. Because I know I can pay my bills. I don't get to do things like go out and, like once a month, maybe I'll go to a restaurant or get something to eat. I won't go to a restaurant, but get something to eat out. There's a pizza. If I'm having a good month, maybe 2, it's movies, like the little things that people take for granted when they're making money that are just like, I'll just go do that. That'll be fun. I am, amongst the lowest, the lower class here who just doesn't even think in those terms. My life is built around the concept of it's just not in there. It's not like, oh, I'll go to a restaurant tonight. Oh, I think I'll go see a movie. That kind of thing. Like, if I'm gonna drop $10 on an evening out, I think about it first. It's not just something that I do. And I am not, alone in that. I'm living pretty fucking well in my own $2,000 house in Detroit here, with all this fucking computer and lights and stuff. And people have supported me so much, as a YouTuber and a live streamer, as an entertainer over the years, and I've been doing all of this on fucking less than 10 grand a year. If I had $12,000 a year, if I had $1,000 a month, I would have an excess of like $400 a month over the way that I live right now. That would be, I can now like, I think I'll go to the movies. I'll go out to, my quality of life would fucking skyrocket for the sake of just a couple of $1,000s a year of literally hundreds a month. And I think everybody is entitled to that. Everyone should
There's something that's pretty well documented, which is lifestyle creep, I think. And so it's essentially when you earn more money, you like say you get a raise at work or whatever, you start, oh, maybe I could do with that new car now that I have the money to afford it. Or maybe I could go to a restaurant, once a week because I have the money to spend in excess now. And then that becomes your new baseline. You get accustomed to that. You have this hedonic treadmill because humans, we're so adaptable to things that you put us in any situation and we kind of get used to it. And so you give us something more and we adapt to better, and that becomes the new normal. And then you give us something more and that becomes better. So we choose that, and that's now the new normal. And so you never really get happier in an absolute sense. You just
apparently you
creep
do at
and creep.
$70,000.
Apparently you do up until yeah. I mean, I suppose there's there are kind of not quite fundamental, but maybe one layer above fundamental human needs that kind of up to that $70,000 range. I think once you reach that point, you essentially don't have to think about spending in a normal sense, right? You just kind of, oh, I kind of want that and I'll buy it. But without it being a kind of lifestyle creep thing, unless you're the kind of person who goes, I have a 70 grand annual salary, so, I'll spend 70 grand on this new car once a year. Now I need to make more money to pay for my new car fetish. Yeah. Yeah. So
buy a Tesla truck.
yeah. So it's interesting when you think about kind of, what is a suitable baseline to give somebody? And I think in terms of being able to lead a good life, 12,000 a year. Like, you can live a good life because good is relative, and you can afford nice things that are important to you, and food that keeps you healthy, and
Yeah.
and safe, and have safety on without really needing that much money.
And importantly, it's not just, the $1,000 a month would be here. You're a human being. You're going to need this. Boom, you've got it. But then, you've got a life to live. What are you interested in? What do you want to contribute to the world? And you'll make some money doing that as well. Imagine if I, suddenly I got $1,000 a month. I'm not going to stop fucking live streaming. I do this, it helps pay the bills, but I do it because I fucking enjoy it. So, now I'm making, on a good month, $1,600 a month. I go from being $8,000 to $9,000 a year if I'm lucky, and that's before expenses that I write off of the taxes for, paying for the stuff that goes on. But eight grand a year, and then that on top of the 12, and then I'm a $20,000 fucking household. My life would be fucking grand, man. I got $2,500 worth of debt still trying to pay off this $2,001 home. Don't ask me how. It's repairs and putting things in. If I would have that paid off in 3 months, and I would pay it off. And where the capitalistic argument, is that that like people spend money when they have money, right? So when people have money, then there's more money moving around in the economy, and there's more people spending money, and then there's more people earning money, and that kind of a thing. When we get the money out of it's tied up in the stock market and trickle down version of the economy that we've got right now, and wealthy people with their giant stores of, as Jesus described it, to paraphrase, laying up today's harvest for, next winter while your neighbors are fucking starving in the streets. When we get that, those resources out, they'll be everyone's resources, and we'll all be able to trade them back and forth and, contribute to one another's lives positively. Right now, our contributions are all sucked up by middlemen. That's all it is. That's all the rich are. They're middlemen. They get in the middle of a process that was going to happen anyway. The idea that, humanity and economies don't work unless there's rich moguls of industry at the top. No, people still need to live. They still need, they still want the things that they want. We still want to turn on the TV and see sex and violence. We want Iron Man to fucking kiss the redhead, and we want all of that thing. We're still going to be doing all that. All we're talking about is Visa. You've got actual money, and you've got somebody who you want to pay. Hey, let's sit in the middle. And then every time you pay someone, we'll charge the person you're paying 3%, and we'll then charge you a monthly percentage on top. Oh, God, this is brilliant. It's just money going into the pockets of people who are doing fucking nothing, who don't need to be there. And on that note, what do you think?
I mean, this is about the end of the show, actually, in terms of timing. So that's a pretty good note to end on. Fuck you, Visa. I was having a conversation in the restaurant earlier with a co-worker, and we were talking about how nice it is to be able to just use contactless and not have to worry about carrying cash. And and how, God, I really hate these places where they only take cash, because it's such a traditionalistic, backwards thing. I just want to be able to walk in, use my card, pay the exact amount I need to pay, and get out. I don't have to worry about counting coins, and none of that would be feasible without Visa. Or maybe it would be. I mean, Bitcoin doesn't have a Visa, right? It's all distributed. Cryptocurrencies might be a way around this.
I have broken everything. I'm ready for the credits roll anyway, but I think I broke.
All right. All right. Well, some interesting things today. I mean, we've covered why does income equality happen, and the general premise of universal basic income as a means of remedying the horrible injustices that exist in our world. And then we had a bit of a debate on kind of in this system of capping minimums and maximums of earnings, how would you
'cause I
achieve
don't know.
large-scale human endeavors?
Because I don't know how the fuck it all works out, but I don't think you have to know how it works out. I think you change some laws, you move some things, you restrict things to reasonable rates. You say one person shouldn't have that fucking much, and then you figure out, you see how the economy, changes itself. You don't try and lay hands on it and say, you don't try and put the government in control and say, well, we're going to take over the manufacturing. No, just let it be. All you got to do is say one person can't have that much, and then you figure out what to do about businesses, about corporations. Because even if we end up, and we would end up with people, rich people basically hiding their wealth in the business because they can get away with it, that kind of thing. But so long as we can cap that to a reasonable level as well, if there are caps in place, people are always going to cheat the system. There's always going to be somebody robbing, somebody stealing, somebody working in an angle. But if the caps are, if the ceiling is that much lower, then the cheating is going to be that much lower as well. So that's all you need to do is just fucking limit the wealth, take the wealth that's already there, knock it over so that we can all fucking eat and just fucking see what happens. Try and build it from scratch. It will take care of itself. People need to do what they need to do, and they will do it.
There you go. Trump, Boris, Macron, Jinping, Jinping, how do you pronounce that? There you go. Thanks for watching the Harv and Porn Show, all you world leaders.
Thanks, Boris.
Get on that tomorrow. Get on that tomorrow, 9 a.m. Get into work, enact those laws, please. And we'll
thank you all for coming out. Thank you for the
there.
subscriptions and the support. We will see you next time, which will be 2 weeks from now, Wednesday, on the day that is on the calendar.
Indeed.
Look it up yourself.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support us, you can share, you can sub, you can become a patron, and you'll get all the things, be able to vote for the discussion topics, and hopefully we won't get randomly hacked again, because that's supposed to be a thing that's probably Squat's show. But regardless, you can support us. The ways are there. Just Google Harv and Porn, and you'll find us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Harv, Porn, Harv, Porn, Harv and Porn, and 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 Harv and Porn. Harv and Porn.